Okay, so I have prepared a couple of things for us, and so I'll share my screen. So today, yes, we're going to talk about value proposition design, more specifically how to articulate that value proposition. And you know, a lot of things can go into value proposition design. So the problem is maybe it looks like this. It's like, hey, you got this big vision, and you know you're trying to communicate this to people, your family, your friends, customers, and all that kind of stuff. And maybe they let you get about like 30 seconds in before you see the eye glaze. But at the end of your, you know, maybe they listen to your pitch, and maybe they don't, but maybe they do. And at the end of it, they give you the thumbs up and they walk away with a pat on the back, and you're like, wait a minute, did they actually get it? Like I'm left here feeling like I really didn't nail it like I wanted to nail it. And why can't they see it? Right? And why does it take me so long to be able is it because they're dumb? No, it's not because they're dumb. Is it because I'm a bad communicator? No, it's not that. Here's the real problem is you got 15 pounds of stuff and you're trying to put it in like a 1 pound little container. Right? Because it's all important. And you know what? That feels kind of like, man, it's a little discouraging, but there is a way to do all of this. And you know, it's not rocket science, it's not proprietary, but you know, sometimes whenever we're in the thing, right? It's tough to kind of come back and pull out and kind of just look at the big picture. So really, there's nothing super awesome or secret that I have to share with you today other than just, hey, this is how I do it. And you know, and it's not that Dan came up with this by himself. Dan has borrowed from all the other people that have come before him. And so just to let you know that this is something that you can do, everybody can do. This belongs to everyone. Okay, so so you guys like know a little bit about my background. This is me. This actually was reflective of me in Baghdad whenever I started my first company as an internet service provider. I was literally living in an SUV in Baghdad in the middle of summertime, which is kind of hot. Actually, the reason was because we were in this villa, and the villa didn't have 24/7 electricity. And so sleeping was like really, really difficult. And so I had to like go into the SUV, turn that on, and sleep in the AC all night while I was trying to get this internet service provider online, literally. So, anyways, this is what it can feel like as an entrepreneur. You know, once you get to a certain place, you don't have to live in a van down by the river so much anymore. But you know, sometimes it seems like that. So, just so you know, also, you know, here's a map of the world, and this red dot is reflective of the time that I spent in Baghdad, and this red dot is reflective of the time that I've been spending in Sacramento. And these three X's are basically the amount of times that I've, quote, failed. And these three green checks are the amounts of times that I've, quote, succeeded. Now I put those in quotes because success and failure all has to do with your perspective. It has to do with, hey, did I fail? Like, is that a hard fail? Does that mean I'm worthless as an entrepreneur? No, it means actually that I'm more worth things. Like I have lessons and I have experience and stuff that just makes me better and quicker and more effective, like every project that I iterate on, right? Now those green checks means that there are numbers and maybe metrics associated with stuff that I've done. So let's talk about the green checks real quick. The first company that I did was an internet service provider in Baghdad, Iraq. I did that with an Iraqi partner, and I'm still in contact with him. It's a wonderful relationship that's going on 11 years now, and it's one of the highlights of my business life. This represents a cupcake. So my wife and I bought a cupcake shop in 2012, and that's still running. And so from time to time, as Laura mentioned, I do deliver cupcakes. Get in my little car and I just hand things off to people and I say, I hope this tastes good, you know, whatever. But Maria, my wife, handles all of it, and she's told me basically to stay away from it. So I'm okay with that. Because in the meantime, what I've been doing is I've been like doing all these like red X's and failing at like web development, hardware development, programming, that kind of stuff, right? In the meantime, also what I've done is I've started a podcast using lean, lean startup methods. And it's not about internet, it's not about cupcakes, it's not about business. It's about this book of ancient Chinese wisdom called the Tao Te Ching. And so anyways, to date, this podcast has received probably about 140,000 downloads, and that I started in November of 2019. So anyways, just so you know I'm not lying, here's a couple of hero shots. There's me with my wife at the cupcake shop. There's me and Safe, my partner. This is us actually on the job back in probably 2011. And this is, Dan turned electrician and using his hardware skills that he gained, like trying to do hardware stuff, trying to fix an oven that wouldn't bake at 8 o'clock at night. So, okay. So anyways, just wanted to qualify myself really quick. What are some of the other things I've done, since then? It's been basically, with all those fails, what I've been able to do is kind of understand how hard it is to articulate stuff, right? Because, with all those like red X's, those are all the projects that I thought were projects. There are like many projects in between there where I was just always trying to get some sort of thing across to people. And I've failed at this so many times. So now I feel like, maybe I'm kind of decent at it. Okay, so let me show you what it is that we're actually going to talk about today. So really what I want to be able to do is show you guys like how to summarize your startup's value proposition. And I want you to walk away with a product statement that you can put together, and I have a worksheet for that. And it's basically ends up in you being able to articulate your startup with one sentence in a holistic, cogent manner. Okay. And so this is how we're actually going to talk about it. We already talked about the problem that we have. Now I'm going to look into some of the psychology that's behind that and how to actually address that. And then I'll show you some worksheets that I use whenever I put these things together, and then we'll go through an actual example. Okay, sound good? All right, sweet. Okay, so, all right, so we talked about the problem, right? The problem being that, when you're telling somebody something and you're trying to put all these 15 pounds in like a 1 pound bag, it's just not working, right? Now, what are we doing? Like, why is that not working? It's because we're telling maybe a lot about maybe we're telling our recipient about, or our listener about all the game-changing stuff. We're telling them about the vision. We're telling them about what our product is going to do and all that kind of stuff, right? But this is what's actually happening inside of the customer's brain. They are thinking about a couple of different things. Number one, they're like, okay, how does this relate to me? That's number one, right? So they're kind of internal, just listening to stuff. But as it turns out, also, there's two parts of their brain that are trying to get, this understanding around like what we're actually talking about, right? And so there's this logical part of their brain of that what they're trying to like actually understand, and then there's this emotional part of their brain that is trying to understand this whole thing, right? So, when we listen to stuff or when we purchase stuff, right, it's always like, hey, I need to buy a thing and I need the thing to do this. But really, I also need to feel a certain way whenever that thing my task is complete, right? And so it would follow that like everybody has a functional need and they also have an emotional need, right? There's always this piece of like your startup has to do a thing, but it also has to mean something as well, right? And when we start telling people about what the thing is, like we find that maybe we're putting things in context, it takes too long to tee it up. But as it turns out, I don't think that we necessarily always need to get into the weeds in order to deliver that to somebody. We have to be maybe a little comfortable going high level and then allowing the customer's brain or the listener's brain to do the rest. Sort of like what Stephen King said in his On Writing. It's basically like this. When you're writing something, you're writing about, you're setting a scene or something like that. Really all you need to do is paint an outline for your reader. and your reader's brain does the rest, right? And so that's what we're trying to actually get at, but in a way that actually helps us talk about the thing a little bit more in depth, right? Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, let's look at this a little more. So what's really going on inside of your customer's brain is they're trying to understand what's the emotional component, what's the functional component, right? Now, they don't actually experience it that way. They're not sitting there saying, oh, well, how are you appealing to my emotions right now, Dan? No, they're not doing that. Really, what we're doing here is we're trying to show the customer how she is a hero, right? So let's look at it this way. Like when we're pitching our value proposition to somebody, right? We're saying, okay, well, this is my friend Jan, by the way. Really, Jan is at point A and she's trying to get to point B, right? And all she cares about is, how do I get to point B? I don't, you can tell me that it does a thing, you could tell me that it means something and all that's great and all, but I just need to know, right? So how do we do that? Well, we do this in a systematic way where we're telling them what the thing is, what it does, and what it means. And we're doing it with one sentence for her so that she can understand this. Now, what's really going on here in this interaction, right, is that we're showing her how we're actually going to help her become the superhero that she is, right? So working with us, here she is. She's just regular old Jan, right? And she's trying to become somebody different, somebody better. She's trying to get to something else, right? And she can't do it by herself, or if she does do it by herself, it's going to take her a long time. So really, we are the people that actually support her journey, right? Because she's the superhero of this whole thing. So how can we actually articulate all this stuff? And the answer is, well, with a simple statement. And so what's inside the statement? Okay, so if you use this every time, you'll find that people get it right away. And like I said, this is not rocket science. It's super simple. It's right here. Now, what's difficult is when we want to squish everything and distill everything down, but that's okay. We're going to work through that. Okay, so what's in a product statement? It's basically the name of your company, what it does, who it's for, what it delivers, in other words, the key feature, and how it benefits them, or the key benefit, right? So this is all it is basically somebody say, okay, I'm Dan, so you know who I am, right? And what it is, well, this is is it an app? Is it a marketplace? Is it an ecosystem? Is it a book? Is it a class? Whatever, right? It's just how we're actually delivering the actual value proposition. And then who it's for is usually a phrase of that describes your actual customer, right? So conscientious wearer of bespoke jewelry is a phrase, but it could be a little shortened. Entrepreneur, accountant to entrepreneur, those are short little phrases that describe who your actual customer is, right? And then what the thing delivers. So this is the key functional thing. It's an app that it's a marketplace for conscientious buyers that puts good products in front of you really quickly, or it suggests products, or it keeps you sustainable, or it offers things, right? And so basically it's that whole, this is what it does, and a phrase, right? And then what it basically that thing that it does emotionally for the customer is actually the key benefit, right? So allowing you to buy things that are dope, but still feel okay about it. Right? Okay, so the idea is this actually takes a little bit of wordsmithing, right? To get to distill all those things into a smaller package, but it's not impossible. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. Now, maybe we're yeah, okay, now I get it. I'm all armed with this information and I want to try it out and everything like that, right? And so maybe at this point, we are thinking that, okay, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to knock out this statement, or I've tried this statement before, Dan, and what's happened is it's not happening. So you need to give me something else here, right? Okay, well, here's part of the problem. is that when we're addressing or we're putting together our product statement, sometimes, at least this is what happens for me, is I get into this situation where I'm trying to talk to, in my mind, like several different people all at once, right? So I have this thought that maybe I've got to articulate like this value proposition that satisfies an audience of people that have 3 different points of view. Yeah, right. Like, so maybe it's like in general, when somebody asks me the question, like, hey, what's your startup about? Right. That's the general case. Like, what do you do? What's your company? They just have general interest in it. And then the next case is when I have a stakeholder, right? And a stakeholder I'll define as somebody who's interested in the startup, that is interested in figuring out how they can actually be of assistance to me in the startup or my customers, or something like that. So I'm gonna like tell a different story at that point. And then of course, lest we forget the all important customer, right? So I need to be able to like tell my customer what it is that my startup does in a cogent way. So what I find is that when I'm actually like sitting down to craft a value, like a product statement, sometimes I'll be trying to craft a statement for all these people, and that scrambles my brain. It's just too hard. So in order to remedy that, by the way, this is a simple business model, right? Maybe you have a more complex one where you have like a multi-sided marketplace, where you have multiple people that are involved in, you have multiple customer segments, right, that derive value in different ways, right? So maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's just too much to think about all at once. And so for me, basically the way this kind of shakes out is I'm sitting here thinking about one thing, and then I'm going to think about another one, and then I think about like, another aspect, another benefit, another feature, and then, well, it has to do this, and this is the vision for the future, and then all of a sudden I've got this like big ball of yarn, right? That sucks. So how do I detangle that? Well, maybe I can like literally detangle that. And so this is what I can do. I don't necessarily have to craft a statement for each of these segments, but what I can do is I can start thinking about them separately, right? And so this really helps. Okay, so in the case of like a general case, right? So somebody's like, oh, what does your startup do? Well, first of all, I want to kind of, I already know who I am. I already know what it's called. I already know what it is, right? And so I could just leave it at that. But what I want to do, or what I want to be able to do, is articulate what the main feature is and what the main benefit of the startup is, but for those people in those terms, right? So for the general case, really what I want to do is I just want to frame up the problem and the solution. Now we're just still talking like conceptually right here, right? But in general, like when somebody says, "Oh, what's your startup do?" You say, "Okay, well, whenever you're like working and you want to start a business, and like you get this big project at work, and they're all like, work on this, and then you're like, okay, but then you can't work on your side hustle." Yeah, so we're aiming to fix that, right? So what you're doing is you're just putting that in context for people, and then telling them what the solution is. You're like, "Oh, okay, I get that. How do you do that?" And that leads into the rest of it. Well, let me show you how it works, right? Cool, because we're just dealing with one sentence here. We need a little bit of intrigue from the customer's point of view. Okay, so let's look at the stakeholder. Really, what we want to do is understand kind of like what's more important for them. Now, if it's an investor, or if it's a person that is going to be on your board, or it's somebody that has some resources that you'd like to partner with them, or something like that, really what you have to do when you're talking about your startup is you're talking about, yeah, the problem and the solution, really, but you're talking about the system, right? So like the thing, like the way this whole thing is put together, and then you're going to talk about the use case, right? So the use case is like so the system is basically like this. It sounds like, okay, well, what's your startup about? Well, my startup's about enabling people that are stuck in their day jobs to actually like do a side hustle, but then marrying those two things together so that they can actually like, you know, synchronize their efforts so they can follow their passion and do their job at the same time. And then the stakeholder says, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. How do you do that? And you say, well, let me show you. Let me tell you about my friend Jan. And Jan's got she's got a side hustle, but she also got a job. And I thought, well, maybe I could put together a tool or an app for her that would actually allow her to synchronize and build her accounting book while she's actually doing accounting for her company in a conflict of interest free way. Oh, okay, I understand, right? Sweet. So once we discuss that, or we kind of get through that, then we understand, oh, well, now it's putting this, the magic word for all of this is context, right? We're just trying to figure out context. And so, there's general context, there's stakeholder context, and now let's look at customer context. Okay, so customer context is pretty much like what's in it for me? Why are you doing this? Why are you even talking to me right now? Like, how is this going to solve my problem? How is it going to make me feel? Right? And so here is where we drop that key feature and that key benefit. Okay, so what we've kind of come up here with is the idea that as we're starting to put together like our product statement, like what happens is we're like, oh, it's so big. Well, why is it big? It's because we have all this stuff going on in our brains. And what is all the stuff? Well, all the stuff is like all these different people that we actually want to articulate this thing to, right? And the reason why it gets so confusing and why it takes so long is because there's context that we need to put in place for our individual listener. And so maybe what we can do in the beginning is just kind of size these folks up. And then what we can do is kind of like, hone that message, right? Okay, so before I'd like to pause for a second. And I want to, hold on a second. Yeah. So I'd like to pause and I'd like to hear where everybody's at with this. Before, like, there's a couple things we could do. One, we could say, Dan, yeah, that's nice, but Dan, we could do that. Or I could show you a quick example. Or we could just kind of work on our own value propositions. So yeah, let's hear what you got, Francis. Let's talk.
Well, I put a question in the chat and basically was your last column is customer, but what if your customer and your consumer are different? Like someone else is footing the bill. Would you have an extra column for that and frame it differently?
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah. And so here's the idea, right? Like once you get used to the script, right? So, your name, what it is, what it does, who it's for, but like once you get used to like pitching that to different people, like it just kind of starts coming automatically, and you'll know who you're talking to. And maybe you can get like 2 sentences in before you get the eye glaze, right? So as you're talking, you can kind of just like switch it up as you go, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would definitely, yeah. For me personally, that's kind of what I have is I speak with entrepreneurs, but they're not the ones that pay me. The SBDC is the one that pays me, right? So when SBDC asks me, well, what do you do, Dan? I say, well, I offer classes and workshops, and we talk about startup stuff, and we eventually get to economic impact. That's the ding, ding, ding. That's the number right there that they want, right? And when I talk to entrepreneurs, I say, hey, look, the problem is, putting 15 pounds of stuff in a single pound bag. And everybody's like, yeah, because they have that problem too, right? Okay. All right, are there any other comments, questions before, just kind of roll into an example?
Oh, no, man, I wanted to say you're doing a great job, man. None of this stuff I wouldn't have thought of as being an entrepreneur. I want to tell you thank you, man. So.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right. Okay, so let's look at an example here. Before we do that, I want to tell you about my friend. I have 2 friends. One's name is Mike. The other name is Jan. And you guys have met Jan already. So Jan is an accountant, and she works at HP in accounting. But the problem is that she doesn't want to just do accounting. She wants to have her own business, right? And before she actually worked at HP, she was actually keeping chickens on her roof. and she was selling eggs to the people in her apartment building. And she's like, hey, I think I have a business here. And it was called Chicken in a Box. Basically, it was rooftop chicken keeping, right? And I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever had like fresh eggs, they're dope. They taste great. And so everybody was like, yeah, we like the eggs. We like the eggs. You got the eggs? She'd go down in the elevator in the morning and somebody would see her and they'd be like, hey man, you have any eggs? And so she was like, hey, maybe I have like product market fit here. Right. But anyways, the idea is that people love the eggs and she wanted to keep doing that, but it wasn't enough to make it sustainable. So she was like, yeah, I want to do a business here. But at the same time, no, her last name's not Brady. It's Stanowitz. So damn, that threw me off track. Lost my train of thought. Yeah.
Product market fit, but not sustainable. That's where you were.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Laura. Okay, so Jan's at HP, right? And like, so she's got this chicken keeping business, and then she started work at HP, basically, because she needed, she needed a sustainable thing, a good revenue stream. And so she's an accountant because that's what she went to school for. And what happens is her boss, like, probably about 2-3 months in, walks over to her and she says, hey, I've got this project. And Jan's like, oh, cool, nice chance to prove myself. And the boss is like, yeah, so this project, like, it's been around the office like a couple of times, and it's kind of gotten started and then stalled and then started and stalled. Maybe you can do something with it. And Jan says, well, you got me. Yes, I want to prove myself. How can I say no? Right? So Jan's like, okay, let me take on this project. So she works on the project, right? And what happens is that, here's Chicken in a Box right here. Here's her side hustle. As, it's right over here. So as she starts working on the project, more of her bandwidth keeps getting sucked into this project and less of her bandwidth can be dedicated to Chicken in a Box, right? And so basically, Chicken in a Box kind of goes away because she can't think about it anymore, right? There's other stuff to do. She can't like build this machine that's actually going to like produce eggs for a city block. So that sucks. Now, Jan has a friend, and his name is Mike. Now, Mike was a developer for HP. Let me show you Mike. Here's Mike. Oops. Come on. There we go. This is Mike. Okay, so Mike, while he was working for HP, actually developed an app. And it had nothing to do with HP, and it wasn't an HP thing. This was a Mike thing, right? And he put it in the store, and one of those things that gave him some good runway money, right? So he was like, you know what? HP is cool and all, but I'll see you later because I made it. Now, Mike was my young friend, and what he didn't know is that, hey, you're going to live for at least 60 more years, so you're going to figure something out more sustainable. But, we all, I feel like we all kind of go through that. And so, like me, Mike was like, oh, I'm good. I'll see you guys later. I'm quitting. So he quit. And after a year, he was like, I want to do something else, because he was kind of bit by that entrepreneurship bug, right? And so he started thinking about Jan. Okay. So he's like, okay, well, there's Jan, and she's doing accounting, and he knew about this whole problem that she had with Chia B dying a regrettable death, right? And it wasn't because of lack of customers, it was because of lack of bandwidth. And so he was thinking, he was like, how can I actually help her? Like, I'm a developer. Like, is there something I can do to actually help her? So he talks to her, and they kind of figure out, and he's like, Jan, why don't you start your own business? And she's like, cool, I already thought of that, Mike. Thanks. And Mike's like, well, okay, what's the problem? And Jan's like, bandwidth. Bandwidth is the problem. I can't think about like all this stuff all at once. So Mike's like, well, maybe there's a solution here we can think about. And she's like, okay, I'm listening. So Mike says, well, what if I could give you a tool that would help you synchronize your side hustle with your actual day job? And she's like, well, I'm listening. And Mike's like, okay, let me break it down. So he basically puts this in the form of product statement. So let's look at that product statement really quick. So he says, I present to you, Jan, accounting business in a box. And she's like, what is it? He's like, well, it's an all-in-one business tool. It consists of mostly, we'll say, you know, like a book, an instruction manual, like stuff like that. But mostly what it is it's a piece of software. And it's for people like you that are accountants, but also want to build your own book. So it's for accountant entrepreneurs. And she's like, okay, tell me what it does. And he says, well, this is what it's going to help you do. It's going to help you grow and service your own clients while you're working at HP. So maybe the chicken thing, it was great and all, but what it really meant to you was that you were like taking control of your revenue streams. It meant that, you know, you're finding customers, you're being of service to people in your own unique way. And he's like, with this will help you save a lot of bandwidth. And oh, by the way, it'll help you grow your career and build your business simultaneously. And now Jan's like, oh, okay, so this might change the game for me right here. And this is the point where Jan's like, okay, well, what does it do? How does it work? All this other kind of stuff. So the product statement did its job, because what it did is it teed up the context for Jan so that she could understand, oh, well, this is how it actually impacts me, and this is what it does, and this is what I life could look like after I'm done, right? So what does Abib actually do? Well, it's an all-in-one business solution for accountant entrepreneurs that helps them grow a book while they're working, so they can synchronize their side hustles and their careers all at the same time. What it is a piece of software that allows Jan to market and find new customers. It allows her to continue to service customers with her, you know, like basically with accounting. And then it also helps her manage those relationships so that she can like maintain this pipeline of customers and stuff like that while she's actually doing it. And now we're like, oh, now it makes sense. Like, that's cool, right? And Jan's like, all right, tell me more. Like, how do I start interacting with this? Where do I sign up? All that kind of stuff. And that's what we want, right? We want to drop the context. We want the customer to say, great, tell me more. How does it work? And then after that, we want to say, okay, this is how it works. This is how you sign up. That's the formula that we're kind of using whenever we're like, you know, pitching a concept with people. Okay, so what I'd like to do is show you what this product statement actually looks like, and then we'll do another pause just to see where we're at in this. Okay. Okay. So here's a worksheet. You can have the worksheet. I will drop the worksheet in the chat once we pause. But this is how the worksheet works. Okay, so there's step 1, super complicated, and then there's step 2, right? Did you go to college for this? No, you don't need to. Nobody needs to. I told you in the very beginning, this is a very simple thing, right? Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, this is the product statement right here. The name of our startup, we're just gonna put that in there, accounting business in a box, right? And what type of service it is. Right here, I just put all-in-one business platform. This can be something else, right? Who our customer is, in a phrase, and what the key value is, and then the key benefit. That's what it is. So that's step 1. Now, the good news on step 2, you don't have to do anything else. All you have to do is read, right? Just like that Mad Libs thing, remember those? Okay, so if we've got all this information here, now we're gonna read it. So Abib is an all-in-one business platform for accountant entrepreneurs that helps them grow and service their own clients, enabling them to start a business and grow their careers at the same time. Okay, now we're seeing, wow, that is 15 pounds of stuff and it's put into a 1-pound box, right? Like, okay, cool. Like, it doesn't get into like the specifics, but that's okay, because we have, once we get that customer to engage with us, then we can actually start unpacking that box. Right? And that's when the magic kind of comes out. That's when you're able to like say, oh, okay, well, I'm saving time with the conversation, number 1. Number 2, I see that this person is incrementally more interested in what it is I'm actually saying. Okay, so let's pause for a moment, and I'd like to see where folks are with this. Yeah, I'd like to see where everybody is. Like, are you buying it? Are you not buying it? Are you like, okay, I just need to try it now? Where are we at? Or it could be that we're just thinking about and just trying to digest it. That's okay too.
Cornell's buying it.
Sweet. Thanks, Cornell. Good thing it's free, right? Okay. Well, it seems like, all right, cool. It's pretty simple, right? You guys want to try it? You want to try your own?
And did you want to put a link into the chat for them?
Yes. Yes, I will. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and yes. Let's see. There's product statement right there. Okay, so I just dropped that into the chat. And I'll tell you what, you guys want to take like 5 minutes and try it out?
Only if you play Jeopardy music.
What's that? What's that, Laura?
Only if you can play some Jeopardy music.
Do you guys have Jeopardy music? I have Bossa Nova Lo-Fi. Close enough, maybe?
Laura will hum it for us.
So I'm having trouble downloading it.
Yeah.
Do you have a link to it?
Let's see. Let me think here. How can I get this to you guys?
I've got it. I could upload it somewhere if you want, if that helps.
Okay.
If you're okay with it, I could upload that to the StartupSac website and put a link in there. But you got to be okay with that. Okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I will do that and plop that in a chat shortly. Give you a couple of minutes though.
Okay.
Or you can just share it on the screen so we can look while we have our 5 minutes.
Totally.
Yeah, let's do both.
All right. So you want me to share the example or a blank one?
I think your example worked.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, that's great. And all right. Here we go. Is that going to work for you, Cornell? Okay, now, let me see. You thought I was messing around, maybe.
Bossa Nova is transporting everybody to Brazil. Is that right?
That's right. Oh, you know what? I even have a timer on this thing.
Maybe you could see if anybody has would like some one-on-one consultation as they work through that. Maybe you can help them do that while others are working on it.
Sorry, hold on a second. Let me turn down the volume because I blast this shit.
What's your name for this sheet, Dan? Real quick, Lean
this
Innovator
is
product description.
The product statement.
Product statement. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just need to rename it before uploading it.
So I got kicked out when I tried to download it. Zoom crashed on me. So
What?
and I noticed we have a couple less people now. But my question is, do you have a link to it, like to a Google Drive to get to it instead of having to download it from Zoom? Because I don't know, that caused me to crash. I don't know if it caused anyone else to crash.
Laura, I'm uploading it to the StartupSac website right now, and I'm about to drop a link in.
Okay.
Let's see. I do have a Google Drive as well.
All right, you should see that in there. So check out that link and see if you can get to it.
What did you put in the chat, John?
Yep. Should see a new link in the chat.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay, cool. Nice to see you, Soba. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Everybody working on theirs? Jeff, are you working on one for StartupSac?
No, I'm not. So Daniel has a question. I don't think this is an editable document, unless it depends if the PDF was made editable or not. Let's see. It's not, Daniel. It's basically
Yeah. So I haven't bought the Adobe PDFify like make because it's cheap.
So here's a
Sounds
tip.
like a business idea for somebody.
Here's a tip. Print that out, and then this evening, as you're kicking back after work, go out and have a glass of wine, a glass of beer, whatever you do to relax. Take this printout with you, with your mind's off on other things. Go outside and work on this outside, away from your desk, and you'll have better ideas come to mind there.
Jeff, there is a lot of merit in that.
Oh, I know. I'm a firm believer in getting away from the computer and desk and just getting away and working on it outside.
Except during fire season.
Except during fire season, yes. Better yet, take it, print it out, and take a pen and that with you, and go for a walk somewhere in nature, and that'll even help it even better.
So we're losing folks, Dan.
Yeah, I think it's time to go to like Q&A and help people out.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, thank you. So let's go ahead and we'll just stop sharing then. So I guess like at this point we could do a couple of things. I can share with you like how I actually distill stuff, or we could just kind of go around and like read our own statements, or we just do general Q&A. So that's up to y'all. I'm open to whatever we'd like to do. Okay.
So Johan pasted something in there that is more than one sentence.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun to hear some if anyone wants to share.
I do too.
Wait, what'd you say, Laura?
It would be cool to hear some.
Have people read out their statements, and then maybe we can you can provide feedback, and others can provide input as well.
Yeah, that sounds. That was 5 minutes, anyways. Okay. Okay. So, would anybody like to share theirs? Or we can start talking about the problem of distillation.
If nobody volunteers, we can always start calling on people and put them on the spot.
This is true. That is.
I can do it if you guys want me to.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay, so the name of the company is Tribe Up, and the type of service and product it's a peer-to-peer sports and adventure equipment rental marketplace. It's a marketplace that wants to be eventually an ecosystem / lifestyle brand. So we're peer-to-peer rental service. Who is my customer? My customer is anyone who wants to improve their life. My customer is anyone who wants to try different activities and experiences without having to purchase equipment, right? If somebody's never tried a pedal board, doesn't want to buy, pay $800, they can just try it for $20, and have a new experience. I can add some stats like millennials and all that, but I won't. So the customer is anyone who wants to try new stuff and engage into healthy lifestyle. And those are two different things, I get it. The key value is what you deliver is that no one offers a comprehensive turnkey solution that's lifestyle brand oriented, driven by community, healthy choices, and fun, without being consumed by adrenaline junkies. We're targeting sort of like, you know, again, anyone who wants to lose the weight, anyone who wants to get out in the nature, anyone who wants to hang out with their friends and just get away from the computer. Anyone. And COVID, again, clearly identify where people stand in life. You know, if they want to seek healthier choices, healthier lifestyle, they're striving to that. You know, other people are unfortunately going the other way. So who you enable your customers to become, I don't want to sound cliche or, you know, just a better version of themselves, you know, really, it's all about consistency, small steps, you know, go put your running shoes on and go outside of the house and lock the door and see what happens, even if you don't feel like going for a run. So again, we want to encourage people to have fun, to become healthier, and to inspire others.
Okay. All right. So thanks, Misha. Thanks for going first.
Right.
So I heard some things. I heard that TribeUp is a peer-to-peer marketplace for people that are exploring like different like sports. Is that the exploring sports, right?
Adventure, recreation, sports. Yes, it's more on a fun side, more than anything that's competitive or anything like that.
Got it. Okay. So TribeUp is a peer-to-peer marketplace. TribeUp is a peer-to-peer equipment rental marketplace for the recreation adventurers that allows them to try before they buy, enabling them to become a better version of themselves without spending a lot of money.
That's right. Very well
Okay.
done. You're 15 pounds down to 1 good pound. Yeah, I love it. Good job. You didn't even see my pitch deck yet, or maybe you did. I don't know.
No,
But,
I didn't.
yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So like, I feel like as you're kind of describing that, there was a little bit of mixing of levels there, right? So, you know, at one point you were like, okay, it's a marketplace, and this is what I mean by a marketplace, it's, you know, and all the things, right? And like, what happens is, you know, we kind of start mixing levels just by nature of like who we are and the perspective that we have as the entrepreneurs. We see the entire picture, right? And so what I just talked about now was just wickering it down for that particular person, which is that person that it's the recreation adventurer, right? And that's how we started to keep it like, you know, that's how we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, so I think the next, thanks, Misha. All right, let's hear from Nathan now. What do you got?
All right, so just plugging and chugging. So Circle Around the Sun is an advisory service and an input distributor for California nut orchard owners to convert to organic and regenerative agriculture, enabling them to improve the climate and their own profitability.
Okay. So tell me that again.
It's in a half-pound container. So the name of the company is Circle Around the Sun, and it's an advisory service and an input distributor. Obviously, that's based on traction for owners and managers of nut orchards in California who want to convert to more climate smart, regenerative, and organic growing practices. And the benefit for that ultimately is improving the climate and their bottom lines.
Awesome. Okay, now I get it. So how do you feel about that? Like, so, you know, sometimes we run into the problem of, you know, I'm pitching this product statement to a general audience that isn't necessarily like industry savvy, right? And so you said that, you know, you'd validated that with traction and stuff like that, which is where Dan was like, okay, Dan, just shut up and listen, right? So, yeah, so how do you feel about that? Like, tell me.
So I think I set that up pretty much as the customer focused pitch rather than the general one. My guess is a lot of people here probably need more background for that. I'd need to hear from you all on that.
Okay, well, what do you guys think? Did that make sense, or were you needing a little bit more context?
So maybe
This is where yeah, this is where you guys are supposed to say stuff.
As people are deciding if they really want to speak up, I'll say it's really helpful the way that you frame this, as far as sort of confusing your audiences and trying to address multiple audiences at once.
Yeah.
I definitely have struggled with that, and so it's helpful to be able to focus on that and not try and do it all at once.
Yeah, you know, that happened. Yeah, so many times. It always happens. There you
Francis
go.
think
is asking for something to be typed out, but I'm not sure what she's talking about.
Yeah, she Nathan did already.
I was
Okay.
with her.
so. I think Hasib and Daniel both. I see Hasib has his hand up. Daniel mentioned in chat, and I think somebody else did too. But want to pick either Hasib or Daniel to go next?
All right. Yeah, so I guess just one final comment on yours, Nathan, is that when you say advisory service and input distributor, is that like in order of preference for your customer? Like, is that like the pain point is advisory service first and then input distributor second?
So the logic is these are bundled together. Ideally, I would be selling a product and the advice would come for free, or I would be selling more the advisory with connections to the product, and it should be just one thing.
Well, that was
that make sense?
That was like, you know, where I was going with that is like, can you do that? Like sometimes you can't, right? But if something is assumed with other people, then leaving something out in order for somebody to ask a question later is sometimes a good technique. Sonny Mayuba might agree with you on that one. He's the one that did the art of the pitch. A couple of different office hours is.
Yeah, it was February, I think.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
I think that's wise advice. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. All right, Hasib, what do you have?
Hello, I'm Hasib Awan, CEO and founder of Ifani. We are a secure mobile service that allows you to be a customer. And we serve the top 1.9% American who care about their security, and we guarantee that their stuff will not be hacked. And if it gets hacked, we give up to $5 million insurance policy, which is backed by our. We enable customers to be actually a customer rather than a product. Because right now, when you sign a contract with your cell phone company, it says that they will sell you data. So not just we sell you security data, but we also ensure that your cell phone security is assured. If you give me your telephone number, I can exactly find out where you are, who you spoke to last night, who you texted today, and which website you visited in the last 1 day, and up to 90 days. I can also install like these towers at your neighborhoods and tell you what is actually activities going on, when did you leave the house, and everything. So we work with high-profile individuals. Our customers are generally important people like CEOs of the companies, athletes, a lot of teams we serve. We have a lot of NFL players. We have a lot of important people in the industry, a lot of Hollywood stars who use our product. But like, think about us as AT&T, but secure.
Okay. I need some more.
It might be good to see if he has that written down, maybe paste that in the chat. It might be easier to.
Sure. Is my voice not clear?
It's breaking up a little bit.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So.
At least it was for me.
It was for me too. Yeah, I was trying to. Let's see. All right, Hasib. Let's see.
There we go.
Okay, so let's talk about.
Maybe this helps.
Dude. Awesome. You're like, okay, let me just.
Okay, so I can repeat it in a second if that helps. So
yes, please. Thank you so much.
I'm Hasib Awan, founder of Ifani, which is the most secure cell phone service in US. And we serve the top 1.9% Americans who care about their security. We guarantee that their cell phone will not be hacked by anyone. And if in a case of it get hacked, we take full responsibility and we cover you up to $5 million in insurance backed by a lot of London. We enable our customers to be just a customer rather than product. When you sign up your cell phone carrier, you are just a product, because I can, by you telling your telephone number, I can tell you what your social security score is. I can tell you your credit score. I can tell you which credit cards you have. I can tell you where you are right now. I can tell you your call logs. I can even listen to your calls. And all of this is happening every day. We can install, like, these are Stinger devices that anyone can build for a few $100s, install into your house and actually find out where you are anytime and basically sneak on that. So these, our customers generally are athletes, Hollywood stars, like important people in the industry.
Okay, great. So okay, now that makes more sense. Thanks for bringing out the mic. Okay, so basically, yeah, there's a lot of things in there, right? Okay, so what if we looked at this and we said, okay, the actual problem, like the big problem is that people are products; they're not consumers, right? That's what I heard.
Biggest thing is it's like a security part, right? Like, what if I can tell you, hey, you spoke to this number last night, and this was your conversation?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like I feel like, the thing with security is it's always like security's tough, I feel, because you're telling somebody about a problem that they don't want to have or even know that they have, right? And a lot of times when you're talking about that kind of stuff, that evokes a little bit of fear, a little bit of uncertainty, which, you could use to your advantage sometimes. I mean, FOMO is a thing, right? Fear of missing out, fear of like something actually happening. And so maybe it's appropriate to use it, in some cases, this being one of those cases, right? So you're really, it seems to me that what your value proposition is, like what it does is it protects people from getting their phones hacked. And what it means is that, hey, you don't even know that you're in the matrix right now, but you're in the matrix, right? So we pull you out of the matrix, basically, right? What's your thought on that?
I think that's good. So what I can do is, like, what we normally do is on a customer call, we just say, why don't you tell us your telephone number and we tell you what your social security score is? Or I can tell you who lives with you and your family. Or why don't you give me access and I'll tell you where you are right now and who you spoke to last night. So it's kind of an easy sell in that way, that we can tell you, hey, tell us what time you left the house. If I tell you, where did you go?
Yeah, that's pretty,
so it all depends on a customer. Does it matter to you if someone listens to your call or not? It really depends on the customer.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what, as you're talking about that, I'm like, okay, well, sorry, I was just looking at Laura's comment. She says, market it to alcoholics who have blackouts.
I don't even know what that means, to be honest.
Okay, so when you're an alcoholic, you basically can't control the amount that you're drinking, right? And you're just addicted to alcohol. And a lot of times what happens is alcohol like makes you forget stuff. And like when somebody's in a blackout, it's like they don't know where they're at. They don't know what they're doing. And a lot of times what happens is they wake up to like, cell phones with like angry text messages from people that they don't even know what happened.
You could tell them who they called, what time they left the house. Sorry, it's a bad joke.
I don't know. I mean, I've had a blackout before, and I can definitely relate. I see Daniel smiling too, as the brew guy, right? Anyways, okay.
Just summed that one up nicely, actually, I think, in the chat.
Okay, yeah, Francis. So she says, so SMS is insurance for the data conscious consumer that allows them to protect themselves against malicious hackers, enabling them to feel safe in all their online activities. I feel like that was pretty dope. That's a great job, Francis. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah. What do you think, Hasib?
I think that's good. The only problem with our industry is like, we don't want to be using scarce factor. We want to make them comfortable. So that's obviously become a thing because when people buy it, we want them to feel. So I'll give you an example. Like think about BlackBerry. When in the time of when BlackBerry, there was a BlackBerry and there was a Nokia. So if someone doesn't have a BlackBerry, they were not considered seriously. And like if doesn't have so that's the position market we want to take. If you don't have a funny, basically you're not serious about your security. So that's the kind of positioning we want to be in. Or like if a businessman say, hey, I'm a CEO of a company and my email is abc@yahoo.com, people would not take you seriously. So when it's a digital product, it becomes difficult because but the same position, right? We want to be a standard for cell phone security. Like if you don't have a funny, basically you should not be trustworthy to be done business with because that's the level of security you have.
Yeah. So I feel like as I'm kind of like rolling this around in my mind, I want to think more about the person that I'm marketing to. You know what I mean? Like the executive or the person. Like, so I guess my question there is, Hasib, like, do you have a particular customer archetype that you're going for at first?
Yeah, our customers are generally people who make more than $150,000. That's our general target. Live in US, primary Caucasians. Like I'm not this is basically our customer profile, and all involved in financial decisions. So they do actively invest in different assets, mostly cryptocurrencies.
Okay, that's a little more context. That's good. Okay, so usually, this starts to get into a little bit more customer profile type stuff, right? Where we're like, okay, well, what's my customer's objective? What are they trying to do? What problems are they having with that? And how does that make them feel? Which is the next deeper dive that I would actually take whenever, I'm looking to craft just a nail it every time product statement. Yeah, so I'll tell you what I can do is I can show you some of this. Right here, this is what I've typically, I'll use another tool, and that is this. And this is derived from Osterwalder's value proposition design canvas, if that's familiar to you. But basically, when I start to, maybe sometimes I'm like, well, I need to put this into better context for my particular customer. A lot of times I'll start off with asking, what my customer's objective is. Like, what are they trying to do? Like, they're at point A trying to get to point B. Like, what does that objective look like, right? Yeah. And then I'll say, okay, well, what problems do they actually have with that? And then I start getting into the squishy stuff, which is like, how does that make them feel? And so I have this little emotion wheel that helps jog my memory there, right? Like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, if they have a problem like being taken seriously, how does that make them feel when they're not? Well, it makes them feel maybe like a little bit inadequate. Maybe they feel a little inferior, but they don't want to admit it, that kind of stuff. And so this becomes the actual problem. And then the solution-ish is basically, well, what's it look like whenever there's a solution? And it's upside down for a reason. It's because it's literally the other side of the coin. Right. And so what this reads is, what's the result whenever they actually achieve that objective? And then how's that make them feel? And then, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm seeing, okay, well, it really comes down to, okay, what's their objective? What problems are they having with that? How's that make them feel? And then the value proposition is usually that, like literal, like 180-degree turn and saying, okay, well, this is the actual solution. It answers both of those things. So I'll use this tool to help me hone in on who that customer actually is and what they're trying to do. And then I'll use another one. This is the value proposition design worksheet. And this also comes from Osterwalder. It's I wouldn't call it a derivative, maybe an adaptation of the value proposition design canvas. But basically, this helps me kind of put together like all the features and all the benefits of my service, right? And then once I have all these things together, then it's, quote, a matter of just summarizing, right? Which is kind of difficult. So the idea is, oh, wait a minute. So now we're back to the 15-pound problem again, right? So I think about it like this. When I go to the grocery store, I buy oranges and I buy apples and I buy bananas and I buy cherries. But what am I actually buying? Fruit.
Fruit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm buying fruit. So I have all these like little different details, but there is a word for all those different little details, right? In this case, it happens to be fruit that describes this group of things, right? And what I'll do is I'll say, with all these benefits, like, what is that meta category that describes that group of benefits, right?
Yeah.
And not gonna lie, this it's hard, right? So okay, maybe in the beginning of the office hours today, I was like, oh yeah, it's simple, it's not rocket science and all this other kind of stuff. And okay, maybe I fibbed just a little bit. I basically wanted to articulate that, hey, it's not an algebra equation, but or calculus, depending on your level of, and for me, it's just addition and subtraction. But just kidding, I can add with a calculator. So so where it's difficult is whenever I'm trying to summarize like the meta description for like all these different categories, you know what I mean? And so that actually takes so anyways.
Yeah. So
listen,
is there like a online like a survey where I can send this to them, like an interactive one, so they can click it and I can guess, because we are post revenue. We have done decent traction. Like we're still at early stage, just doing $1 million or so in the first year. So, but at the same time, if they can tell us what they feel, it may be better for me to learn that.
Well, okay. Yeah, well, here's the thing is I have noticed that surveys are great in their proper place. Usually when I'm going with feelings and I need to know how people feel about stuff, that's when I actually need to talk to them, because they won't report their feelings on a survey, at least not accurately.
Okay.
But I do have another resource. I have a reference paper that I wrote on how to talk to customers and how to get that emotional gold.
Yeah.
It's a process where you actually get the customer to start telling a story.
Yeah.
And when they get to the story, you look for those emotional cue points.
Yeah.
And then once you hit on an emotion, then you ask why 5 times to identify the root cause of the emotion.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're like, okay, cool, now I understand it. Now the weird part about all that is when you start asking people to like be vulnerable with you, it's really scary. And a lot of times they'll clam up and they'll just safely migrate to an objective view of the whole situation.
Yeah.
However, I have found that there's a way to mitigate that. And the way to mitigate that is to basically share your own stories along with the customer, saying, hey, it's okay to feel weird about this because I feel weird about it too.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like this walk down into intimacy, basically. So I'll share that with you if you're interested. And also, I'll tell you what, if and I'll tell you guys one other thing before I hand it back to Jeff and to Laura. So this is just, this is like an hour and a half that we spent together today. But there is a way for us to spend more time together if you're interested. And is it okay, Jeff and Laura, if I tell them about the SBDC real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I'm actually an advisor for the Small Business Development Center. And the Small Business Development Center is a federally funded entity that provides free workshops, training, and also one-on-one advising for you and your startup. And when we say free, we mean, okay, well, what's the catch? Well, the catch is you've already prepaid with your tax dollars, basically, right? So we exist to basically help small businesses like grow, and through advisement, coaching, that kind of stuff, right? And so if you'd like to talk more, basically, thank you for posting that link, Jeff. And if you'd like to talk more with me directly, you can. There's my email right there. Or you could simply go to that link, sign up for services, and then tell them what you're doing and like what you're looking to do. The fact that like in this context, we were working on value proposition design and we were looking at like honing things in and that kind of stuff, I would just send me a quick email and I can tell you how to like basically couch what it is that you're looking for, like inside of the sign up for services, because it's a legacy form. That needs a little help from humans sometimes. Jeff's laughing because he knows what I mean.
I know that form well, and it's
yeah. Yeah. So, well, anyways, I think I'm just gonna wrap up today, and what I want to say is, thanks everybody for coming. Really what we did today is we talked about how to basically take all those details about what makes the startup so important and what makes it game changing and what makes it like impactful for humanity, and basically a way to summarize that into one sentence. And it's hard because we're taking a bunch of like things and we're trying to distill it, but it's not impossible, and you can do it. Is really what I wanted to drive home.
Yeah.
So there's one other thing that I'd like to ask you to do before I close, if you wouldn't mind, and if that's okay with Jeff and Laura.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Let me see if that will go in there. I have hold on a second. One more. Almost there. Now it's my turn to have the issue. Oh, man. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll tell you what, folks. If you'd like to help us out at the SBDC and say thanks or whatever, there's a form right there that I put in the chat. That's a Google form. That's an evaluation form. It basically says, okay, great class, not such a great class. If you could have done this, this would have been better. If the SBDC like offered classes like this more, it would be dope, whatever. So it takes you about maybe 60 seconds. I think there's like 13 or 14 little bubbles to fill out online there. If you would go there, that would help us out greatly. And again, if you'd like to work with us one-on-one, then you can send me an email there, or you can sign up for services. So we talked about value proposition design. We talked about like the product statement, how to put that together. We talked about a framework. You got a worksheet. I showed you a couple of deeper things, like whenever we're going into customer development and like crafting the features and benefit list and stuff like that. So I don't know about y'all, but I had an awesome time. I hope it was good for you too. You guys gave me purpose, and I loved it, and I want to thank you. So with that, I will turn it back over to Laura and Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.